Welcome to this year's Royal Academy Summer Exhibition, the 244th, which promises to be not bigger, but certainly better than ever before. There's lots going on in the capital this summer. We've already celebrated the Queen's Jubilee, and the Olympics will soon be kicking off. But first, here's a sample of what we've got in store for you tonight. I descend into the Royal Academy's vaults to select the artists I think will make it into the final show, and go behind the scenes of the frantic two-week hang.
Move the Graham Dennis thing up to
New RA member Michael Landy uncovers the weird and wonderful rituals that surround the summer exhibition. And psychotherapist Philippa Perry paints me a psychological portrait of those who enter each year.
To show someone your art, to say accept me or reject me, is a little bit like dancing naked in the street, isn't it? This is me.
Andrew Graham-Dixon and Sir Anthony Caro pay tribute to the late John Hoyland, and actress Amelia Fox gives her verdict on the finished show. Plus, we reveal the winner of this year's The Royal Academy's summer exhibition is a staple of the arts calendar, an annual ritual greeted with eager celebration by some and knowing derision by others. Personally, I'm a big fan of the show, and it appears I'm not alone.
Well, I love it because it's bonkers, basically. That's what I love about it.
It's a festival of the abundance of imagination and painting.
Where else can you be in the Village Art Show and the best of contemporary art today?
And for all that, we need to thank the very first Joshua Reynolds, who got the whole thing started 244 years ago. In January 1769, rules were drawn up for the very first summer exhibition. Any artist who wanted to submit work had to do so by 6 o'clock on Friday the 14th of April, no latecomers admitted. When the exhibition opened its doors just 9 days later, 139 works were on display in the galleries, but of those, only 7 were by amateur artists. But that was 243 years ago, and things are a little different today. The summer exhibition is now the world's largest open submission art show, attracting thousands of hopefuls, both amateur and professional, from this country and abroad. This year, over 11,000 tried their luck.
My chance to get in, small, but, if you don't try, you never know. I like a better. And 25 to 1.
Over the course of a frantically busy week in March, they descended on the Royal Academy, armed with their treasured artworks.
This is called The Abuse of a Continent.
It's called Strawberry Topping, and I've made the background like this to make it look like cream.
They're all hoping their works will catch the eye of the judges.
You've got to make a big impact right off.
Unfortunately, big works aren't quite what the judges are looking for.
The person in charge this year is concentrating on smaller works, and mine is huge. But whatever, they shouldn't refuse it. If they do, they're just silly, huh?
But for all the bluff, there's a lot riding on this. For some, it's a chance to show the world they've taken a new direction in life.
I want to be an artist. I'm a white fan man at the moment.
I was an economist.
I was a builder till about 3 years ago, till this recession come along, and I decided, well, I'll follow my passion and do what I enjoy.
Months and sometimes years of hard work are loaded in, unwrapped, scanned, and then delivered into the laps of the gods. The gods, in this case, are the Royal Academicians, whose eye-popping task is to judge every piece submitted at a dizzying rate of 4 paintings per minute. They might not get long, but all 11,000 works are individually scrutinised.
Can you come a bit closer?
This morning has been by turns dire and encouraging.
Some things never go away. Kittens, less said the better.
It's a huge mixture. It goes from the really, really brilliant works, of which there aren't that many, to the completely horrendous. And sometimes those two are rather close, actually.
In what many regard as the art world's equivalent to Russian roulette, the vast majority of works don't make it and are summarily dismissed with an X.
We have to be tough. If we didn't, we'd have 20,000 pictures on the wall. You'd be able to see nothing.
For the few that do meet with the judge's approval, They get marked with a rather curious symbol that belongs to traditions of old.
Give that a D.
This is the D, which means effectively it's accepted for the time being.
I wouldn't mind giving that a D.
D stands for doubtful, which means we're still thinking.
As these curious implements suggest, the way the selection committee still operates has changed little since 1876, or even 1976.
No. No. No.
Presidents down the ages have exercised their right to say when they felt something was wrong.
No.
No, thank you.
And all that naysaying can be thirsty work.
Picture me upon your knee, with tea for two and two for tea.
Another ritual that's been passed down through the ages is the infamous beef tea.
It's very welcome at any time of the day or night.
I sort of would prefer a strong coffee, I think, but I'm game.
Are we obliged to drink it? No. No, we go voluntary to our early grave.
The first year I tried the beef tea and I was rollicking all day. Quite a lot of booze.
Newcomer Tess Jarret has rather let the cat out of the bag. The beef tea's magic ingredients are a fiercely guarded secret.
I think it's a mixture of Bovril and sherry. I don't know who came up with this concoction in the first place. They're obviously a comedian. I'm not a huge lover of Bovril. I definitely don't like sherry.
Someone who's fascinated by all the habits and the history that surrounds the summer exhibition is artist Michael Landy.
It's not too bad actually. I thought it's going to be a lot. It's actually quite nice, especially with the Bovril. It kind of hides the sherry, so it's actually really quite nice. Drank a lot worse.
Currently artist in residence at the National Gallery, Landy first made his name in the late 80s as one of the YBAs. He was made a Royal Academician just 4 years ago, but still feels a bit of a new boy.
It's a weird institution, and you have all these kind of weird kind of, rituals and all those kind of things that I think that's, I didn't know what I was joining when I joined up, so you kind of get introduced to the ball machines, sanction day, all those kind of things that you kind of learn. There's no booklet, no one gives you a book, maybe that would help, give you a booklet and you could read about it all. But I like all those things. I mean, that's part of why you join up, isn't it, for all those kind of quirky things.
To satisfy his curiosity, Michael went to the Royal Academy's library to quiz Mark Pomeroy, the archivist.
So how do they select the summer exhibition?
It's an extended and wearying, exhausting process because you've got upwards of 12,000 works of art, but not everybody gets through, so this is the big...
But if you're an RA, you normally do get through.
Yes, you do, yeah.
That's a relief.
You're all right.
Well,
not everyone.
You haven't seen what I'm going to do, so it could be. They may make an exception in my case.
No, we've got plenty of instances where works from academicians were rejected. So
really? Because
you're not home free
yet. I could resign then on a matter of principle.
Here we've got Augustus John. This is 1938, and he says, after the crowning ineptitude of the rejection of Wyndham Lewis's picture, I feel it is impossible for me to remain longer a member of the Royal Academy, and I am writing to Lamb tendering my resignation. So they've rejected a painting in the selection for the summer exhibition.
Okay, and they've accepted his resignation.
Well, they begged him to stay. Obviously, it's Augustus John, and this telegram's what he sent.
Very sorry, just going away, kind of altered decision, John.
But it wasn't long before he changed his mind, and this is the other thing. All these resignations, people like to come back.
They come back?
They come back.
What, you're trying to tell me that I'm going to resign? And it's hardly worth resigning then.
Oh, but it's more
fun,
isn't it? Because then you can resign again.
That's true.
Now, here's a ritual that I love to perform each year. It's the bit where I get to descend deep into the vaults of the Royal Academy, where all of the Ds are stored, to make my selection of works that I think stand a particularly good chance of making it into the summer exhibition. So here they they all are. This is the chosen few, over 1,000 works that have already met with the initial approval of the selection committee. And now it's my turn to play God. The game is, I'm going to try to second-guess the judges and see if amongst this lot I can pick out a few candidates that I think really deserve to make it over that final hurdle. To help me make my selection, the Royal Academy has loaned me 2 of their expert art handlers. Where should we start looking? Should we have a look at some of these smaller ones? Hang on. That's quite sweet. 2 girls with a man who's naked with the face of a wolf, called the Predators. Not sure if they're the Predators or he is. Look at this. I mean, that is immediately, technically...
It's exquisite, isn't it?
It's really well done. And you know what it reminds me of? Those early Freuds that were so beautiful. And this is made using egg tempera. That went out of fashion about 500 years ago. I think for that reason alone, we should have that in. That's a definite. The first work that's caught my eye is by painter Robin Lee Hall.
The title of the piece I've submitted this year is The Clever Young Man, and he came like Greg and just modelled for me from time to time, and he was a fascinating character because he had a quite fascinating life. He was a very clever guy. What appeals to me about egg tempera is that it has a quality that no other paint has. They haven't yet invented a paint that mimics egg tempera. There's this wonderful luminosity to the paint. It's basically egg yolk and powdered colour put together to create paint. It's a very ancient medium. I think the ancient Egyptians used it. I would be absolutely thrilled if I got in this year. Because I've probably entered the summer exhibition about a dozen or so times over many years. And I've actually only got in once, which was in 2008. I'm really happy. I was elated.
And that is not what I was expecting to see at all. Tomato stitch-up. Genius.
You do get a lot of fantasies.
Right, let's move on. Wow. Cross-eyed parrots. Look at this. We've got to have this in. This is quite impressive. Is this a straight photograph?
It says so, yeah.
So what's going on here? Digital C-print. Do you think that's been manipulated?
Yeah, it's entitled Choices.
The many different routes you could drive across this, what looks like a sort of desert landscape. But it feels lunar, doesn't it? This feels like the tracks left behind by Armstrong and the rest of the brigade who went up to the moon. I think that's quite impressive. So let's take this. I think that's a final. My second choice is by photographer Scott Mead.
From the age of 12, 13, something like that, I was fascinated by photography. My grandfather was a press photographer and journalist. Occasionally took me along to photo shoots. And around the age of 13, gave me an old press camera. But as I moved into my mid and late 20s, I parked that artistic side of myself. And for the next 17 or 18 years, I lived a 24/7 life in finance. For whatever reasons, and I still can't tell you exactly why, 3 years ago, I decided I'd go up to the attic and take a look at the 10 or so large boxes of prints, negatives, all sorts of paraphernalia that were up there. The experience, I have to say, was truly overwhelming. I just felt a surge of intensity, passion. I felt like somebody who'd been asleep for 25 or 30 years, a sort of modern Rip Van Winkle. One of the ones I found was the negative, which was choices. And what this is about is the process, the choices that we all consider, think about, and ultimately have to make in life. I always had a promise that I was going to make a major change before the age of 50, back to those years in my 20s when I've been living an artistic life. And that, in many ways, has been the greatest reward of all, to see things again.
What's going on here? This is a much more, well, it's a photograph of a load of classical busts. So this immediately feels like I'm on a slightly boring trip into a National Trust house, being dragged around by my mum and my dad when I'm little. And then there's a pair of female legs alluringly appearing around the corner, which is actually very clever and quite amusing because, of course, the whole convention of having a bust is in itself slightly odd and arbitrary, that your body's cut off from beneath the shoulders. I like it. I like that image. I think it's been well composed. Yeah, let's have it. We'll take that. I think that'll make it in. The third work I've gone for is The Corridor by Liane Lang.
I started casting figures at the RA schools when I was a student there. And then I started posing them for photographs. That was really the intention right from the beginning, that they wouldn't be used as sculptural objects, but that they would be part of another work. I think of part of my work as performance art without performers. There is nobody in the room. I'm photographing essentially an empty space, and the figure is a sort of suggested presence. I think of them as spectral presences, like slightly haunted spaces. I go into public spaces and I create an intervention, or I make a change to a public monument, and it does feel a bit like a sort of thing, that you shouldn't be doing. And sometimes you in fact shouldn't be doing it, and you kind of have to do it very quickly. The Royal Academy Summer Exhibition has the big advantage of attracting a huge audience that you wouldn't otherwise get into your, contemporary art gallery, and that probably otherwise would never see your work. And also you get to have the surprise of who you're going to be hung next to. There's some very exciting artists in the summer exhibition.
Now on to sculpture. Like the judges when they first view the work submitted, I'm going to have to make my selection from photographs quite a tricky thing to do. That I find really disturbing. Sometimes disturbing's good, dark can be good, but that one I think I would leave. It's a kind of mixture of porcelain and Coke bottles. Now, I'm not sure I like that one at all. This, on the other hand, is completely bonkers and good. I quite like this. There's a sort of double sculpture of two figs. And I don't know what they are. Maybe they're cast in bronze and painted. And I quite like them because they seem quite surreal. I'm going to take a punt and back those figs. This pair of bronze figs are the work of sculptor Veda Hallowes.
My first career was as a nurse, and then I was an intensive care nurse, and after a bit I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I took a long, hard look at my life and decided that I may as well do what I loved, which was the sculpture. Initially I wanted to do figurative work, but after about 10 years, I did anthropomorphic fruits, so that I would do a pear, and it would look like a pear, but was it? Because it had a bottom. And so that they were very ambiguous pieces, quite sensual in a way, but very ambiguous. I've submitted to the summer exhibition about 4 or 5 times, I think, and I'm very aware that with something like the summer exhibition, it is the luck of the draw, because it depends not only on the quality of your work, but on who the selection committee is and what look they're going for that year. So sometimes very good pieces get in, and sometimes very good pieces don't, and sometimes less good pieces do get in because they're looking for a particular thing that year, and that's fair enough.
I know it's in the nature of a competitive show like the summer exhibition that you risk rejection, but that doesn't mean it isn't painful when it happens. And I should know, because a few years ago I did submit a work, a sincere work of art, which I was hoping would get in, and I got rejected. And you know what? At the time, I felt gutted. What I could really have done with was a good old spot of therapy. Hi. Philippa Perry knows all about rejection. She's a writer and psychotherapist who also happens to be married to the artist Grayson Perry. I'm quite glad that I found you, Philippa, because in a sense I am still smarting from the rejection that I experienced from the summer exhibition all those years ago. I submitted a work. It was a conceptual portrait of my mum. It was a very sort of bulbous jar of red lentils, which I always remembered as a child. My earliest memory of my mother, who has red hair, was that she'd prepared in a kitchen not dissimilar from this. Lots of food using these red lentils, and she had red hair. And I thought, this was an emotional, warm, proper thing that I could submit. Anyway, the RA didn't get any of that, and it got an X, it got rejected.
And then, how did you feel when that happened?
I felt a bit upset because there was, I know it sounds ridiculous, but there was some genuine thought that had gone into it.
Am I guessing this wrong? If you feel like not only your work was rejected, but they've sort of rejected your mother as they've rejected this representation of your mother. Well, was that meaning there as well in the rejection?
If that meaning was there latently, that subsequently came out for real, because following year, my mum actually submitted, she's an artist herself, and she submitted a couple of paintings, and both of them got rejected. So the Royal Academy Summer Exhibition Committee does not like the Sooke household, clearly, when it comes to...
Is that what you're telling yourself, that they really don't like the Sookes?
It's chipped away at the self-esteem, yeah.
You've woven a story there as though you are disliked, and you know the how it's done. You know they select work that fits in with work they're going to show anyway. So you can submit the most fantastic work of art in the world, and it still might get rejected because it doesn't fit in with their theme or the scheme they've got going for that year. So couldn't you weave yourself another story around that?
Well, that would be the clever, mentally strong thing to do, but I realised talking to Philippa, I didn't deal too well with rejection. I wonder if the artists I've selected as front runners for the summer exhibition are made of tougher stuff.
What life is about is putting yourself out there and being open to new experiences, new challenges. That's going to necessarily involve rejection in one form or another.
All art, I guess, is a reflection of one's own inner self. And so I feel a little vulnerable sometimes putting work out into a large public exhibition.
I have to admit that if I get rejected by somebody, I do tend to think that there's obviously something wrong with their judgment.
There are days when you think that you've put in a good piece and you think, God, I think that stood a chance maybe of getting in, and it gets rejected. And there is a little bit of soul searching about why did it get rejected? Why, what was the matter with it?
To make work, in a way, it's quite a vulnerable making thing to do. To show someone your art, to say accept me or reject me, is a little bit like dancing naked in the street, isn't it? This is me. It's a bit scary. Why would you do that for yourself? And I suppose it's because of hope. Hope that even though I'm dancing in the street naked, you might still like me. And the other thing is maybe it's a sort of feeling of I belong. Here's this august institution, this very long, nearly 250-year tradition, and I belong to it. I'm a part of something bigger than me.
It's not only the artists I've selected who worry about how their works will be received. Even Christopher Lebrun, the president of the Royal Academy, has concerns, as I found out when I went to visit him in his South London studio.
You've caught me at a very interesting moment because I'm genuinely not absolutely sure which pictures I'm going to put in, because I tend to leave the decision about the summer exhibition at the very last moment.
So which are the options?
Right, okay.
Can I give you some help?
Yeah, of course. As long as you don't disagree with me.
Okay, yeah, that sort of help, right?
That sort of help. Well, I think one I'm absolutely sure about is this picture here.
What's this one called?
This is called A Letter to Joshua.
So you're referring to Joshua, your predecessor?
Yes, exactly.
Why do you feel this one is strong enough to submit this year?
It was the most recent painting I'd finished. I also felt the scale of it and I thought the strength of the colour would allow it to work in the very difficult circumstances of the summer show. I'm intrigued to see it, though.
So we've got a dead cert. How many do you get? I mean, does the president you have a perk?
No special conditions. They don't want too many big paintings. I've completely broken the rule here with this picture.
Yes.
It's much too big.
I mean, surely, as president, you're guaranteed of showing the works.
Yes, but it's an academy. You're making decisions in concert with your colleagues. So you don't want to force something on the Academy.
Do you have a sense where you would like this to hang as well?
Well, that's not up to me. That's up to the chief hanger. I've got ideas where I'd like it to be, but we'll see. We'll see.
Whose are those?
The sinisterly named chief hanger this year is painter Tess Jarret. Her job is to oversee a team of fellow RAs who are each responsible for hanging a room.
Shall we bring that in? I'll go and get it.
Okay.
They're all feeling the pressure. It's week 1, and everyone's up against a strict deadline to finish the hang by the following week.
Move the Graham Clark Venice thing up to... So we get a bit of
the yellow comes round with this.
This is the magical and slightly mad moment when the hang starts to come together. All of the thousands of works submitted by the public and the Royal Academicians, and also the handful of high-profile artists invited to show, have to make it past the final hurdle. They're all jockeying for position, but the thing is, a small percentage of them are going to fall by the wayside and won't actually make it onto the walls at all. Humphrey Ocean and Marley Morris have been tasked with hanging a room of mainly RA's work with a smattering of public submissions.
How are you finding it then?
Day 1 was pretty daunting. This room was piled high with stuff. I mean, my first instinct was to run away, really. It was just sort of so terrifying. But then, it's flight or fight.
One of the ways that we both do it is almost by walking past and something connects with something else, or something just snags your eye and you say, yes, that should be over there. I mean, Mally's just made a suggestion for a picture which has been sitting in one spot for the last week, and so it's kind of hunkered down there, and we thought it was unassailable. And she said, why don't you move it over there? And so, so it's like 2 weeks on a, Swiss health farm for me, so there's a kind of lightness of being.
Peter, hello.
Hello. Here we are.
Oh, you've got... Is this what? This isn't...
This is the real... This is the real
beef
thing.
tea. The famous beef tea.
This is it.
I've never had this.
Chance of your...
It sounds rank.
Absolutely.
How is it?
It's delicious.
Is it?
Oh, God. Traditional fare.
Oh, it's kind of...
Secret recipe.
Is it got booze in it?
You bet. Everything has got booze in at the Royal Academy.
I quite like it. I quite like this. Peter Freeth and Chris Orr are responsible for the most popular rooms in the exhibition, showcasing prints. You two do it together?
Not every year.
Absolutely. No. This year we do. We're like twin.
This year we're double act this year.
Dream team.
Last year I did it on my own. I didn't have Peter's help, and it was a bit of a failure, wasn't it?
Peter's come and saved the
brought
day.
him in. No, I should say. Basically, I mean, it works because we have different viewpoints, and we work very different tastes.
We're incredibly sophisticated and subtle, and a raised eyebrow is all the code we need to say that's definitely not going on the wall.
I think fox underneath Doggerbutt. What do you think, Peter?
I assumed it was
you went the other way around.
Well, can you just hold it up? Let's see which looks best.
Now, it may seem that the works are selected completely randomly, but believe me, there is a method to the madness. Hello, Tess.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, I'm Alastair. A few weeks ago, I paid a visit to Tess Jarret's London home to get the inside track on how she'd approached the daunting task of coordinating this unruly art jumble sale. Is there a vision for the whole show, or do you just do it room by room?
Oh, there is absolutely a vision for the whole show. I mean, this year, one of the most important themes is to concentrate on what we call modest-sized works. Now, it seems to me that there is a kind of an epidemic of gigantism in museums across the world.
Are you thinking sort of places like Tate Modern, where they have very big sculptural installations?
I mean, that's absolutely great, but art is not only that. Art is many things, and I think small works have been a little bit ignored in recent times. I mean, I know Hockney said paintings have to be big. I just think paintings have to be good. I could say size is not important in art.
No. So, time to see if Tess's careful planning has paid off. Will it be a case of best laid plans, or will she have managed to see her original vision through? Tess, hiya.
Hello.
How are you doing? Nice to see
Very well.
you.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Are you contemplating how things are looking?
I'm rather admiring, actually.
Good. Well, that's the first response you want.
Yes. I really wasn't quite certain until we started to hang them how this would work. And I am slightly surprised that with this rather simple but nevertheless non-rectilinear form, this wave, that it's drawing you in. Nothing is so high, there's nothing that's gone right to the top, what's called skying. You know, we could have filled it in right to the top, but this way, everything has an equal chance of being seen.
From small paintings to large, Stephen Chambers faces the perhaps unenviable task of hanging all the big hitters this year. Work by leading contemporary artists like Gary Hume and George Baselitz. Stephen, my hunch is that actually hanging a room like this might be quite tricky because there are big names here, and I'm assuming that there are also some quite big egos.
Yeah, the easiest galleries to hang are the galleries that are predominantly open submission because everybody's pleased to be on the walls. They love you, you know. But these people know they're going to be hung. They're members. They're going to get on the walls and they care about where they're placed. And I understand that. And some are more vocal about letting their dissatisfaction be known than others.
Are they? So you witness strops and tantrums then?
Christ, yeah. There is anger. There is foot stamping. And you tell them where the bike is.
And now, I recognise this because I saw it in the studio. This is a difficult one to hang, isn't it? This is a sensitive one to hang. Should maybe be over there in a slightly more prominent spot, don't you think?
He would blush.
Yeah, but it'd be quite, it's a good chance to suck up, isn't it?
I think he could do without sucking up.
Now, last year, the Royal Academy lost one of its biggest names, the abstract painter John Hoyland. And to commemorate his unique personality and talent, they're showing two of his seminal works from the 1970s. Andrew Graham-Dixon visited his studio and met Hoyland's widow, as well as his close friend, the sculptor Sir Anthony Caro.
John Hoyland was born in Sheffield in 1934, a place where, he himself readily admitted, the sun rarely shone. He should have been born in the tropics. No other British painter used colour quite like Hoyland. He saw colour everywhere, in a doorway, a blade of grass, in the sky. And he translated that love of vibrant colour into large abstract canvases, positively buzzing with energy and life. They earned him the reputation for a while of being England's answer to the abstract expressionists, a kind of Sheffield-born Mark Rothko, but it wasn't right to compare John to anyone else. He was very much his own man. He satisfied his craving for light and sun by escaping rainy old England for the Caribbean as often as he could. His love for Jamaica in particular ran deep and strong. He even married Miss Jamaica. Hoyland's widow, Beverly Heath, who met John in the late 1970s, is now the custodian of Hoyland's famous studio.
Right, Andrew, so this is it. John Hoyland Studio Headquarters.
It's great. I do actually remember it.
Yeah?
But I don't think there was quite so much paint on the floor the last time I came.
Yeah, the paint has really built up, hasn't it?
Is this one of his last paintings?
This is Moon in Water, yeah. It's the very last painting he entered in his record books.
Wow.
He was...
still as explosive as ever.
Still as explosive, just
and
a bit darker.
There's a ghost of it down. Do you think that's the...
Oh, yeah.
This is the ghost of that picture?
Yeah, he never paints upright. He always lays them on the floor.
Going to try pouring this.
What a mass of paint pots, all acrylic paint he's using. And we've got all the sort of different methods that he used to apply it. The roller, the trowel, the brush.
And look
the
at this
stick.
one.
Look at that
This is amazing.
That's brilliant.
Let's see how that dries.
There's something quite poignant in a way, I think, about how quickly a working studio can sort of almost turn into a shrine.
Exactly.
It does feel a bit like he's just left. I mean, the shoe's completely covered in paint. Look, those ones up there. They've seen a lot of action, those boots, haven't they?
Yeah.
These boots are made for painting.
Exactly.
As a student at the Royal Academy schools in the early 60s, Hoyland had his entire diploma show ordered off the walls by the then president, Sir Charles Wheeler, who took a rather dim view of abstract art. The irony was not lost on Hoyland when he was finally accepted into the fold and made a Royal Academician in 1991. One of Hoyland's closest friends and contemporaries was Sir Anthony Caro, now also a fellow RA, who has fond memories of those rebel-rousing early days.
I'm trying to think when I did first meet him. It was probably about 61, something like that, 62. And he lived in Primrose Hill. And he said, come and see what I've done. I knocked at the door. And this face came out of the ground floor room and said, you can't get in that way. It's full of paintings. I had to go through the window to get in. He was painting so much, you know.
But he literally painted himself
He
in
painted
so
himself
that he could
in
only
the
get
hole.
in and out of the
Absolutely, yeah.
The RA. Because the last time I was here, John himself was hanging a roll.
Yeah, really.
And he'd given his own painting a great deal of prominence, but right in front of it, he'd put one of your works. So who's this? I see this
That's
huge
me.
painting in the middle. Yeah, away with all that false modesty. I'm gonna put myself in the middle.
Absolutely. And I like the kind of this kitsch Van Gogh that nobody wanted. It's looking across at the Caro, you see.
I think there was that sense that he always had that, you know, he liked having his work next to your work. He felt that they complemented each other in some sense.
Well, we liked each other's work, which was nice. And we became friends really when we were both selected to go with the British Council show in Sao Paulo. We were sitting on the beach at Rio, looking at the passing ladies and things.
As you do.
But as John did a lot. And
you didn't waste time.
No, he didn't waste time. In fact, round the pool also, a bit earlier, he had met this lady who said that he was going to dance in Port of Spain. So John said, let's go down and see her dance. So went down, and she threw a lot of bottles on the floor. They were broken glass. She was dancing on broken glass. Then she got hold of a snake, and then she poured brandy on and set it on fire. And John went pale, and he said, I think it's going to be too much for me, this.
So that was the girlfriend who never was.
No, that was the girlfriend who never was, yes.
But there were a lot of girlfriends who
No,
were.
it was always fun. I mean, I had such a laugh with John. That was the thing.
Well, it's a shame that he's not here now, but, you know,
Well, it
I'm
is.
I'm glad they're giving him a send-off.
I am too. I mean, the paintings in their own right are wonderful. So many of them are real humdingers.
It's nearly the end of week 2 of The Hang, and things are falling nicely into place. But room must be made for one late arrival.
The work I've submitted is a yellow bronze bin. I sent out a plastic bin to China. There's a foundry in China that makes bronze, so they cast my plastic bin and they made it into bronze. They did paint it, but they painted the little tidyman, that little tidyman that drops the rubbish into the bin, that kind of symbol. But they made him like into little Chinese figures for some reason. They didn't like the big Western figures, so they made them into like little Chinese figures instead. So I don't know if they thought that was like Western propaganda or quite what it was. But anyway, so it's me as a portrait, as a rubbish bin. So I'm going to ask people if they recognise me when they see it. I think it's a spitting image of me.
Just like the president, Michael Landy also has concerns about where his work is going to be placed.
Well, I think the thing is, obviously with a bin, there's going to be a bit of misunderstanding about it. I mean, if you put it into the middle of the room at the Royal Academy, people will know it's an artwork. But if you put it alongside a door somewhere, or you put it outside, people think it's a bin. So some people think, why have they started to introduce really obnoxious yellow bins into the Royal Academy?
So here is Michael's bin. And I think this is quite a good position, actually. Just here by the door, I think he'll be pleased. And I hope that at least a few visitors are going to be foxed and that rubbish will appear in there at some point. As you can see, now the show's finally completed, it's time to find out which of the artists that I selected from the vaults has actually made it in. Weeks of suspense are now over. The Royal Academy send out a letter to every one of the thousands of people who submit. And today is the day they find out if they've got in or been rejected.
Thank you for entering this year's summer exhibition.
With over 11,000 entries, the competition was extremely strong.
However, I'm delighted to inform you that your work, The Clever Young Man, has been selected and hung in the exhibition. That's brilliant. Fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to turning up to seeing where they've hung it on the wall. That's the next thing, is seeing where it is.
Unfortunately, it's not good news all round.
On this occasion, I'm sorry to inform you that your two works were not hung in the exhibition. However, they were shortlisted, which is a fine achievement. Okay. Well, of course, it's hugely disappointing. However philosophical I am, I'll apply again another year and try again. And perhaps another time I'll be lucky.
I'm delighted to inform you that your choices has been selected and hung in the exhibition. That feels great. Really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks.
So it's better news for Scott and Liane.
Excellent. I'm in.
It's Varnishing Day 2012, and as in years gone by, this is the day when the lucky artists who've got in get a sneak preview of the show and finally find out where their works have been hung. But first of all, the show's got to be blessed. In a colourful ritual that goes back 244 years, the exhibiting artists are led down Piccadilly to St James's Church for a special ceremony to launch the summer exhibition. R.A. new boy Michael Landy is now well in his stride and relishing every moment of the summer exhibition's unique traditions.
Well, the procession, I mean, I just like it taking up the street, really, and I'd never been on one before. I just like the whole feel of it, and it's just a very joyful, kind of life-affirming thing.
Although not official RAs, Liane, Scott and Robin Lee are also welcomed into the fold and made to feel part of this holy art congregation.
Good morning and welcome to St James's Piccadilly for the Royal Academy of Arts Service for Artists. We come to celebrate and honour the work of those who would call us beyond ourselves by the visual arts. We come to give thanks to God for new ways of seeing the world in which we live. We begin with our first hymn, Now Thank We All Our God.
As a child, I used to go to church, but I've never been in a service where the service is to bless an art exhibition and bless the artists taking part in the exhibition. And so I found the whole service very touching.
After the blessing, it's all back to the Royal Academy for drinks and canapes, and a chance for Scott, Liane and Robin Lee to finally find out where their works have been hung.
Have you spied it yet?
Oh yeah!
You got it?
Yeah! Fantastic! It's on the line! It's on the line!
It's on the line.
I've never had a painting on the line before.
Oh, so that's a big new achievement.
Absolutely. I'm really happy. That's great.
Good.
Yeah, no, it's
That's a good
super.
reaction.
I've shown before and been in that tiny little room,
Yes.
and I've been like nearly near the ceiling.
Oh, that's
So,
almost the
and it
worst
was another
spot, isn't
small
it?
painting. Yes, yes. But at least I was in, so I was happy.
It's like going from singing the gods to being in the stalls.
I know, it's absolutely amazing.
Scott has no trouble spotting his work.
Definitely see it.
Now, I think... well, how do you feel? I mean...
I think it is really nicely displayed and hung, because the whole idea of this work is to draw you in. So to have it at this level is just right.
Well, the level's key. I feel, Scott, I have to say, I feel this is a premium piece of real estate that you've got here.
I'm thrilled.
If I look in here, does it tell me how much you're selling this for?
It's selling for £7,500.
Sorry, how much?
£7,500. I give 100% of whatever I sell to Great Ormond Street Hospital.
Oh, fantastic.
Where one of my children was cured of a life-threatening illness as a baby many years ago.
Well, bloody hope it sells then.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's not in this main thing. Liana is in the big hitters room, but is finding it hard to locate her work. How can we find it?
There it is.
Yep, here it is. I think
Almost,
the gift shop's
almost
there.
in the gift shop.
Yes, practically.
Yes. You can't step away from it very well.
You can't.
But
I mean, it's fantastic that's in. I think it's a really good, very intriguing piece, and so that's all good.
Yes.
What's it called?
The corridor.
Kind of feels appropriate.
Yes. I don't think they thought of that.
Well, maybe that's a very sophisticated piece of curating on the part of Stephen Chambers.
Do you think that one's
Maybe.
called the corridor as well?